Hey, have you ever been buried under a pile of castings? I mean a pile of castings that you can't use right away and you don't have anybody to sell it to? I've been busy with my worm casting screen harvester and I've got a pile like that right here in front of me. We're going to talk today about how we can turn a common cat litter bucket into a long-term casting storage solution. Stick around, it's going to be fun. Hi, I'm Rick from Iowa Worm Composting and I've got a confession to make. I'm a wormaholic. I had a few worms too many, then one bin became 2 bins, became 4, 50. Then the indoors wasn't big enough. The outdoor construction began. I don't know what happened. I used to be normal. But my wife still loves me, I think. Enough goofing around. Really, I am Rick from Iowa Worm Composting, and we're a small worm farming operation, and we sell worms, worm castings, worm bins, and other related essentials. We haven't seen it all over the years, but we've seen a lot of it. And we've made our mistakes, and fortunately, we've learned from them. If you want to learn from our mistakes and travel a road less bumpy, you're on the right channel. If you're looking for some fancy video production and special effects, you'll probably be disappointed. If you're just looking for good worm composting information that's going to make your life easier and better yet, even more successful, you've come to the right place. If you like our videos, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. If you've got something to say or a question about what we go over, drop it in the comments and we'll be sure to answer. With that being said, let's get on with it. Before we talk about casting storage, let's talk a little bit about castings and what castings are and what we have to be careful about when we consider a storage solution. Think of your castings as a living biological entity. In these castings, you have a collection of bacteria, some fungi, probably a few beneficial nematodes, maybe some amoebas, plant growth hormones, and humic acids. And the two things that the castings need to do to survive is one, to have moisture, and the second thing is to have air. So any casting storage solution we consider has to either maintain the moisture and allow air for the bacteria to breathe. One of the solutions to store castings is to put them in a sandbag. These sandbags are breathable and they will keep your castings alive. The only problem for long-term storage is that your castings tend to dry out because they get too much air. What I do here at Iowa Worm Composting is I use a common cat litter bucket that comes with the lid, and I modify it so that it gets some air supply, and I put moist castings in and put the lid back on. And here in a minute I'll show you how we do that. Okay, we just have a common cat litter bucket. This one's a member's mark, so I'm assuming it comes from Sam's. And these cat litter buckets are all pretty similar. They're constructed mostly the same, and it applies to all the plastic buckets. What we're going to do is just take a drill, and I have about an 1/8 inch drill bit here, and the size of the drill bit's not all that important. You know, 1/8 inch, around 1/8 inch, that's fine. We're going to drill 2 holes in each corner, so there'll be a total of 8 holes. And we want to drill it as high as possible because we don't want the castings to come up over the top of the holes. So here we go. We're going to drill some holes. And this is not fancy. I'm not measuring or anything. And there you have it. We now have a long-term casting storage solution. I actually sell casting in these buckets, and all I do is I pull the cat litter labels off and I put my own label on there for the worm castings with directions for use. But all I do is fill them, and I use like this ice cream bucket right here, and it's like a gallon and a pint ice cream bucket, and I always measure my castings by the gallon. So my customers actually get a little bit more than I put 3 gallons in this bucket, but my customers actually get a little bit more than 3 gallons. We're just going to fill this up. Dump them in the bucket. 1. There's 2 gallons. And there's 3 gallons. Now if you take a look at this bucket, you can see the holes right here and here that are above the top of the castings. And we want to make sure that the castings stay below those holes because we need them to get air. Okay, in a bucket down here, I've got a piece of newspaper, just part of a section like this, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the top of these castings with this newspaper section. Just like so, and make sure that the newspaper is underneath the holes. Then all we're going to do is we're going to put the lid back on tight and seal it up. And the last thing we want to do is make sure that we write a date on our bucket. Now if you're smart, you'll write the date on the side of the bucket because we're going to stack these up vertically so they don't take too much space, and you don't want to write it on the lid because you won't be able to see the date. So I'm going to write the date right here. (1/23/19). That way when I have these buckets stacked up, I'll be able to tell how old these castings are so I can always sell the oldest ones first. And that's all there is to storing your castings for the long term. I've found that in this bucket with the lid on and sealed up tight, that the castings will stay moist for 6 months. I check mine every 6 months. If they're getting a little bit dry, I just spray them down a little bit with water. Let's have a little bit of a discussion about water. The last thing we want to do is put chlorinated water on our castings. Chlorine kills bacteria, and you know the castings are full of bacteria, so we don't want to do that. So if you do have a chlorinated water supply, just make sure that you fill a bucket and let it sit for 24 hours and the chlorine will gas off, and then it's fine to use. If your castings are a little dry before you put it in the bucket, there's no problem adding a little moisture to the castings. Just add moisture to it like you would worm bedding, mix it all up, make sure it's not clumpy, and get it nice and moist, not muddy, just moist, kind of like worm bedding. And then you can put it in your bucket. Castings in the bucket with the lid on it, with the holes drilled on the side, will stay aerobic. And I check mine every 6 months, and they're usually really moist. A lot of times the newspaper is kind of disintegrated, so I might put another wet piece of newspaper on there. If the castings are a little bit dry, I go ahead and just spray it with a little bit of moisture. Okay, that's it for turning a common cat litter bucket into a long-term casting storage solution. And hey, if you like this video, give us a like. If you'd like to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you got something on your mind or a question, just drop it in the comments below and we'll be sure to answer it. Okay, we'll talk to you later. Bye.